Hello and welcome to the Meet the Candidates event. And hello to all of you watching on TV or Facebook. We're being live streamed thanks to Clearview Community TV. And guys out there in Cyberland, we know you're with us. So if you leave some comments on the Facebook page while we're active, we may take a look at them and incorporate it into this program. So I'm Beryl Donovan. Everybody calls me Barry, so I answer to that. I'm the director of the Gaffney Library, and I'd like to say that today's event is being organized by the Gaffney Library and the Wakefield Lions Club. So recognizing the committee, who's done a lot of work here, we have Scott Gaudette. Scott, can you stand up? He's president of the Lions Club. Ann Palmariello works with him as well. She's over here. Julie Kessler is our intrepid timer and also a member of the library's board of directors, and she's also your town elected trustee. So you have a position in the town that's a town voted elected trustee. And Annie Robbins, who is very busy backstage gathering our candidates. So this is our third Meet the Candidate event, and at the end of every event we ask you to fill out the evaluation slips that are on the seat, that were on the seat when you came in. So we pay a lot of attention to those, and over the 3 events that we've had, we've noticed the biggest thing you would like to see would be questions from the audience. So we're trying that with this event, and you may have gathered a slip out there and a pencil to write down any questions you might have for the audience. Dino's going to get into that in more detail later, but just to keep an eye out, listen to the candidates. After the second round of questions, we're going to come by and collect your questions. After the second round of the forum questions, we'll come by and collect all the questions that you have. We'll take them, have a brief intermission, gather them by topic, and then come back and we'll pose those questions to the forum. So the questions should be aimed at the forum in general, and the people on the forum will raise their hand if they would like to answer your question. So think hard, listen well, give us questions. And again, fill out, please, the form that's on your seat at the end of this event so that we will know how to do it better the next time. So, some housekeeping tasks. Please use the connector elevator or the stairs to exit the Opera House. We have the front door completely closed off, so you can't exit or enter that way. Please turn off all cell phones, and no camera flashes, please. Emergency exits are pretty visible here. There's one to the rear, the front of the town hall, and one to the entrance to the connector over here. Restrooms are located one level down and then another level further than that. Bet you didn't know it was that deep down there, did you? Refreshments are over here on the table with the Lions Club and various volunteers. I think that's about it. So the Gaffney Library and the Wakefield Lions Club are committed to educating voters on the candidates and the issues in a nonpartisan spirit. Remember, guys, these are your neighbors. Let's be friendly and positive. We will never endorse a candidate or try to persuade a vote on an issue. The goal is to help our community stay strong by providing informed voters. We urge citizens to vote and encourage others to vote as well. We hope you leave today with a better idea of who you will vote for and why, and that you will be a better informed voter. Now, I'd like to introduce Dino. I think everybody knows Dino, and I think he deserves a round of applause. Candidates, would you please take the stage? I think that was the password. So you'll notice that the candidates are set up by their term alphabetically.
How's that? Yep. Looks like I got it. While they're setting up, I'd just like to say welcome, everyone. My name is Dino Scala. I am also your town moderator. I'll be handling the event here today, and I'd just like to say, very pleased when I see a crowd this size. This is literally bigger than the town meeting that we had, so it warms my heart when we see this many people coming out to gather and get involved with politics. As I mentioned, my name is Dino. I will be your moderator today for today's Meet the Candidates Forum, or as I like to call it, Everyone Wants to Be a Selectman. Let's start. If I could have all the veterans, either on stage or in the audience, could you stand, please?
Right.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, thank you. Now, I don't see any young kids here today. I was going to have them do the pledge. I don't see anyone under 14 or anything like that. So I will lead the pledge, if you don't mind, if we could all stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's begin. For those of you watching live, feel free to comment on our Facebook as you watch, which is under Wakefield, New Hampshire, a community working together. Some people have asked why only the candidates for selectmen in the forum. The reason is that only the selectman position is actually contested this year. They need a chance to state their case so voters can choose between the candidates running for the same position, and obviously we have quite a group running. Those candidates with no opposition are uncontested, and they are part of the meet and greet, and you also can talk more to them after the event. So what I'd like to do, I'll begin right now, and I'm going to read off the contestants that are uncontested. You'll see them on the ballot on the 12th. When I call your name, could you please stand? For a 3-year town clerk position, Valerie Ward. She is standing, thank you. For a 3-year trustee of the trust funds, it's Howie Knight. I know Howie's not here. For a 3-year position for planning board, Tom Doobie is not here. Is David Silcox here? We are 0 for 4 so far, okay. Oh, I count you as a 0, sorry. We get along fine. Don't encourage her, Becky. Okay, for a 3-year term of cemetery trustee, Jackie Keating. For a budget committee 3-year position, again, Howie Knight, not here. Paul Romano. Thank you, Paul. And Frank Zappola. I saw him. Thank you, Frank. Again, those are 3-year positions, uncontested. For uncontested budget committee, we have Elizabeth Connor for 1 year. Not seeing her. And a 3-year position for assessor, Mr. Ralph Fogg. Okay, thank you. I'm going to move over to the school ballot. And just to prove that even moderators are human, I forgot to sign up for school moderator. So a position for a 1-year moderator is blank. If 10 of you would be so kind to write me in, I would probably get that position. For a 1-year school district, we also have Valerie Ward, who will be my partner in crime with that. For school board, for a 3-year position, Robert Ouellette. Don't know if Rob's here today. Ralph again for a 3-year school board position. And for a school district, I should say, on that last position, Robert Ouellette and Ralph Fogg, There are 2 running, and that is for a 3-year position. School District Treasurer for 1-year position, Carlene Stewart. Those are our uncontested candidates, and we will move, let's see. Now I will move to the town's position for the selectmen. Okay. I'd like to mention that in addition to the earlier meet and greet, the opportunity you will have again, a chance to talk with all the candidates at the closing of the forum. We've learned from feedback in the past that you would like some questions to come from the audience. We're giving that a try this year. So if you'd like to submit your question, please fill out the form we have offered you as you enter the Opera House, and was also passed around. After the second round of questions to the forum, we will take a brief break to collect and sort your questions by topic. So it's this form here. Please be sure that you mark the topic on that form. Volunteers will be around to collect the slips at the end of each row, or you can hand them to one of the lions. They will be reviewed by the committee, grouped by topic, and dependent upon the time factor, the top 2 or 3 questions will be posed to the forum. The questions must be general and not specific to one candidate. All candidates will have an opportunity to answer each question posed to the forum. Now let's begin. For the benefit of the candidates in the audience, I'd like to review the procedure. Candidates are set up left to right by a 1, 2, and 3-year seat. With each seat, they are arranged by alphabetical order. Candidates, you will have 1 minute to introduce yourself and explain why you are running for the office of selectman. At the conclusion of the introduction round, each of you will have 2 minutes to identify what you consider to be the top 3 most important issues facing our town, and then give a brief explanation of how you would approach each issue. At the conclusion of each round, there will be a brief break to collect any written questions from the audience. After the audience posed questions, each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for closing remarks. Let's begin the forum, and the audience, please refrain from applauding until all candidates have responded. We will begin with the 1-minute introduction. Candidates, our timer, Julie Kessler, as I like to call the hammer, she will give you a 15-second warning by holding up a yellow card. Once that passes, if you're still talking, she will hold up a red card. If you're still talking, I will give you a slight gavel to stop the talking so we can move on to the next. If you're still talking after the gavel, you belong in Washington, D.C. Starting with candidates for 1-year selectmen. Jerome Libby is a candidate for this seat. He is unable to attend. So let's begin with the introduction with Rose Cleveland Baxter.
Hi, my name is Rose Baxter. I am running for the 1-year office with hopes that you would give me a chance, and if you like me, then you could vote me in for a longer term next year. I think you will find that I am an honest, dedicated to this town. I feel that my background in other town offices that I have held in other towns, as well as my volunteer work in community service and my owning a fairly large small business for the last 20+ years, gives me the skill to budget our finances and handle the public in a way that is appropriate for a selectman, and the unbiased to the diversity of the people in our town and the different needs required for a small town. I am running for selectman because I believe that I could give a modern and new thought to how we run our town affairs and to make it more user-friendly.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Mr. Denley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Bill Denley. Along with my wife, Susan, we've owned the Sanborn Hill Farm for the last 35 years. And during that time, I've got to know most of you. And the town's very special to me. I believe that by virtue of my education, my experience, both in and out of the town, that I can make a positive impact on the way the town moves forward. And that's the reason that I've put my name into to run.
Thank you. Mr. Ken Paul Sr. Oh, see, this is the part I have to slow down, right? Okay. Reset. Okay. Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name's Kenneth Paul. I'm running for a one-year seat on the Board of Selectmen. I've served 3 terms as your selectman for 9 years, and then I believed in term limits, so I stepped aside, let somebody came through. Recently, as most of you know, 2 selectmen stepped down last year, so I was encouraged to put my name in and help the board stabilize and get through last year. I'm running for the one-year seat to help in case we have 2 selectmen with no experience, help them transition through, so I would only be here for the 1 year and then, again, allow more people to come through. It's great to see this many people have their interest in running for this position. It's encouraging to see, as you know, everyone has an interest in it, and it's great to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll be moving to the candidates for a 2-year selectman position. Okay. Mr. Jeffrey Denley.
Hi, my name's Jeff Denley. I have lived in town my whole life. I'm running for selectman because I'm a property owner, have a small business in town, and when I have kids, I want them to be able to grow up in the same small town environment that I grew up in.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Mark Duffy.
Hi, I'm Mark Duffy. I'm running for the 2-year term as selectman. I hope, I was wondering if you could just indulge me for a minute. I just want to pay tribute to a man that spent a lot of time revitalizing the Opera House we're sitting in. That's Mr. Ed Morris. And if we could all give a round of applause, I'm sure he'll hear it in the heavens real quick. Thank you. I was just selectman for 12 years prior, and I decided to take a break on, like Mr. Paul, to let some other people come in and have a chance at it. I too saw 2 selectmen leave the board early and for various reasons, but I decided to run because there are some hot issues that are concerning to the residents. One being our roads, bridges, and our water bodies, for that matter too. I do have the experience. I've done it quite a while. I've done management for most of my life. I'm now working as a realtor. During my course, my management, it gives me the experience to be a selectman. It is a business, and we have to. This selectmen run the town. We take care of the business at hand, take care of the budget, personnel issues, all that stuff. So it has to be run like a business, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ruth Hall.
Hi, my name is Ruth Hall, and I'm running for the 2-year term for selectman. I have not been your selectman before. I have lived in town for 42 years, since 1977. I've been a small business person in town. My husband and I used to run Stonecraft Pottery, making stoneware pottery for sale across the state and across the Northeast. And then realizing that we really couldn't prepare much for the future, I went to law school. Now I'm an attorney. I have an office right across the street in the Garden Building. And I'm running for 3 reasons: transparency, term limits, and thinking, especially thinking outside the box. Also, I'm running as a team with Lee Nichols, who is about the polar opposite of me, and I'll explain more about that later. But watch the videos on Clearview.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. James Reiner.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm sure we're all going to have pretty much the same ideas or issues, so it's good to see that anyways. First of all, my name is James Reinert. I'm running for the 2-year selectman seat here in Wakefield. I grew up in nearby Rochester, and I've resided here in town with my wife and children since 2009. I'm currently a member of the Wakefield Budget Committee, and I've enjoyed my time thus far by trying to help our community maintain a fair and balanced tax rate. I'm running for selectman because there are several issues in town that are causing me grave concern, and I would assume many other residents as well. Issues such as our infrastructure, a lack of transparency, and a lack of forward thinking in recent years. I feel I can help the board and the town move forward with controlled, responsible growth and give the voice back to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last candidate for a 2-year selectman position, Michael Watkins.
Hi, my name's Mike Watkins. I've lived here in town since 2012. I've been a career firefighter for the last 21 years. I spent 27 or so also as a volunteer in a separate town where we lived before moving here. The reason I'm running is I have no personal agenda, nor am I pushing for any immediate change. It's time for a truly independent member of the Board of Selectmen with no personal or business connections to town operations. I do not have a personal connection with or to the government, nor do I conduct any business in town that could influence my decision-making process. Before moving to Wakefield, I was a very active member in which the town we lived, and I saw the growth and the need to push through change negatively affect that town.
Thank you. And we're going to move on to the 3-year selectman position, but before we do, part of having a good event is having great people around you, and I just got this note to remind me. Thank you, Barry, for this. If we could, a round of applause for the chief who managed to show up here today and just say hi. We appreciate him every time he comes in. Thank you, Chief. I'm going to get pulled over. I know it. Finally, the candidates for a 3-year selectman position. Tristan Plummer, who you will see on the ballot, would like it be known that he is not running for this position, even though his name will remain on the ballot. So on with the 3 candidates that we have here today. We'll start with Mr. Charlie Edwards.
Thanks, Mr. Moderator. My name's Charlie Edwards. I am a lifelong resident of this community, and I have a lot of roots in this town for sure. After losing a very tight race a year ago, I felt this town was on the right track where I left it. As with many jobs, there are always room for change. I felt many things were getting accomplished, but less than a year, the stability was lost. 2 board members resigned. Why? Not able to sit back and watch, I decided to send a letter in the interest to fill out for the vacant seat. Not once, but twice. I figured where I had just left the board months prior, I had a good chance in many years of experience. I figured 279 voters out of 600, I should have had the position. The polls stated that they wanted me to remain on the board. It's pretty close. It's obvious the administration didn't want me. Why? I think the only reason is, the answer to that I can come up with is, I am a leader and not a follower.
Ooh, that was close. I had the gavel in my hand, Mr.
All
Edwards.
right.
Please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name's Lee Nichols. I've resided in town since I was 3.5. My parents moved me down to Union across from the Irving gas station. The main reasons I'm running are, as Mrs. Hall said, is we need more transparency. The other reason is I've watched selectmen's meetings, and I plan on doing all the proper research on any subjects that are on that agenda, so that when we get to them, you don't hear a lot of I don't knows and I'm not sures. I believe that you should do your research on the state laws and know what you're talking about when you get on the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. And last we have Ms. Connie Twombly.
My name is Connie Twombly, and my husband and I were born and brought up in Wakefield. We have been married for 55 years, have 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. Since retiring, we decided to get involved with the community and are on different boards. I have been a selectman for 6 years and would like to continue for 3 more years.
Thank you. And once again, thank you to all candidates that have come out today. Again, a very large showing for these 3 positions. Round of applause if you don't mind, folks. Now we are going to move on to the forum questions. And audience, please be reminded that the candidates have had these questions in advance. We'll begin again with the one-year selectman position. Starting with Rose, what do you consider to be the top 3 most important issues facing Wakefield, and how would you approach each one? Again, you will have 2 minutes to answer this question, and our timekeeper will be keeping time, obviously. So go ahead.
First would be the DPW infrastructures, which consist...
You're going to need to go right to the mic. Thank you. It's all right. We're sharing. I think we have 8 mics for all these people, so we're sharing them.
First would be the DPW infrastructures, which consist of bridges, especially the red-listed bridges, roads, sewers, transfer station. Second would be financial sound budgeting of the town money. And these 2 go hand in hand for me. If you had a roof that needed to be fixed within a 5-year period, and they said it was going to cost $10,000 to fix, your yearly budget was $10,000, you wouldn't wait till the last year to put that money away. You would divide it over the 5 years and then prioritize your budget so that you had the money saved by the time it came to fix the roof. And when you do your yearly budget, you don't put priority to your wants over your needs and your emergencies. It's not that I don't want baseball dugouts or any of the other types of wants. It's that we need to prioritize because we have infrastructures, transfer stations, roads, bridges that are in distress at the moment that need to be addressed. That would probably be considered emergencies. I wouldn't address all the bridges that need to be repaired as emergencies, but we definitely need to prioritize the red-listed bridges as being done as soon as possible. Cost of all of these bridges needing repair is in excess of $5 million. Our yearly budget is $2 million. My third important would be a 5-member select board. Waiting for people already in town office will just leave us, voting for people already in town office will just leave us with status quo as if nothing has changed. And if we want change and are not happy with the way things are going, we need to vote in people that have not been in office as of yet. Sorry, I lost my place.
That a good spot to end? Your time has expired.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bill Denley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Issues come and go, as we know. And on my list of I'm sure it'll be mentioned over and over again, we've got popping water lines all over town. That's obviously a big problem that needs to be addressed. Always in the public realm, you need to concentrate on needs and not wants. We're calling upon the taxpayers to fund some extraordinary amounts of money, and there'll be more spent as well. So it's incumbent upon the selectmen and as the persons that make policy that we concentrate on wants, on needs and not wants for the most part. But I'd like to take the rest of my time to talk about what's first on my list, and that is ensuring that civility remains the order of the day as we tackle whatever we are in terms of solving problems. It breaks my heart to see what's gone on in Washington and, to a lesser extent, in Concord. And we need to make sure that we never let that type of thing invade our sphere of friendship here in Wakefield. We can disagree. Of course, we can disagree, and we will disagree, but we can do so civilly and not affect our friendships. And so that is really what I put on the top of my list, is making sure that you don't allow yourself to be drawn into the muck of giving up friendships because of where you've stood on a particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kenny Paul.
Thank you, sir. First thing is to maintain, I believe, the low tax rate that we have. And by maintaining that low tax rate, we really have to look at why we have such a low tax rate. And that's because of the lakes we have. The amount of lakes we have and the water quality we have, we need to maintain a high water quality with those lakes so we can keep the tax rate for what it is. Out of the 260 towns in New Hampshire, we're number 36 on the lowest for tax rates. 21 towns that beat us are unincorporated towns, so they really don't count. So there's only 15 other towns that are less than us. And focusing on that water quality allows us the resource we have to be able to spend millions of dollars and put in the right direction. That's been a focus on this board. The tax rate's been a focus on this board for years and years and years. It's only gone up $2 in the past 15 years, roughly, which is huge. If you have we all like to complain about our taxes, but if you compare it with somebody that lives in a neighboring community, we lose the argument very, very quickly. They explain to us what their tax rate is, and that goes really quickly. The infrastructure, we've heard a lot of that, and we are working on a road plan. UNH is going to be doing a road plan this summer for us, this spring, that's going to get us in the right direction. We've looked at it for years, that we want a good road plan that explains where, what, and how, which roads need to be fixed, and prioritize it. We've had shifting at the DPW, so different directors give us different opinions. Now with a professional company coming in and laying these plans out, that's going to help us dramatically. There are a few bridges, but you have to look at the bridge and the amount of traffic that goes over it to see if it really is a priority or there's other options they have and not prioritize it. Third would be, we've got a lot of facilities that Parks and Rec's going to be looking for a new facility. Transfer station needs a lot of work down there, and DPW also as well. Thank you.
Thank you. At the start of each new position for selectman, I'm going to read the question again. So again, we're heading towards the 2-year selectman position, and the question is, candidates, what do you consider to be the top 3 most important issues facing Wakefield, and how would you approach each one? We'll start with Mr. Jeffrey Denley.
Not to beat the infrastructure thing to death, but I too think that's very important. There's roads that are virtually impassable at certain times of the year. I happen to live on one, and it's not a lot of fun. You got bridges all over town that aren't safe. Some are closed down. You got the Canal Road Bridge that is historic. It needs to be saved. There's dams in town that also need attention. The water lines in town, I believe they were put in the 30s. I'm not positive about that, but I believe that's when they were put in. And as everyone knows, they're leaking daily, if not weekly. Someone's digging them up and repairing them and fixing them, and we need to come and figure out a plan to fix that. Another thing that concerns me is spending. Like my dad said, we need to separate wants versus needs. Can we get by without it? If yes, then we don't need to do it. Obviously, money needs to get spent to allow the town to operate, but if elected, I will not just rubber stamp my approval on everything. And then, when I spoke with people, when I was in regards to running for selectman, the clear consensus that there was a lot of unhappiness and disappointment with the current administration, and therefore how the town is being run. We are a town of 5,000, not 50,000. We all need to come together and work to resolve our differences.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Mark Duffy.
I believe the top 3 issues are, and again, I don't want to beat it to death, but, our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, and maintaining the quality of our water, as Mr. Paul had brought up. We have an issue on Pond Road that came up with a culvert. We don't have an inventory of our culverts. We need an inventory of the culverts. The culvert's damaged. Now we have water flowing into Level Lake, which causes infiltration of I'm having a brain cramp with the influence coming in there for weeds and stuff like that. We need to protect these water bodies, as Mr. Paul said. They are a great source of our revenue. A lot of these non-voting members of our community live on these lakes and don't have a voice in this town. But they contribute a lot to our low tax rate. We definitely need to bring a priority list to the bridges. The water department has a pretty good comprehensive plan of how they're dealing with the water. We need to coordinate our road projects with them. I've seen it multiple times. We pave a road, and the next thing you know, we're digging up the water lines. You know, we got to coordinate. I do agree with some of the comments about the town hall. I'd like to see the town, bring back the people coming into the town hall having a sense of that they can be listened to and that they're going to get the answers, and that this is actually going to be followed up and researched. That's one of the things that I do. I listen to people. I don't care who you are. You come and talk to me, I'll listen to you, and I'll look into what you came to me and asked for. So it's, we do have that low tax rate. We need to maintain that. Needs and wants, as Mr. Bill Denley said, that is something that Mr. Dick Wessel used to harp on me all the time, needs versus wants. I do agree with him on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Ruth Hall, please.
The selectmen are your policy-setting body, and that means that getting into the nuts and bolts is fine, but there have to be broad and reasonable policies. I'm running as a team with Lee Nichols because he doesn't think like I do. We think differently, and we start from different positions on the issues very often. But what we've learned is that we can dialogue together, listen to each other, listen to other people, and come up with a compromise that's fair. So it isn't where you start on the issues. You have to think. You have to be transparent. I'm also for term limits. Isn't it wonderful that we actually have all these people running this time, irrespective of the circumstances that may have brought us here? And I think that this town has a broad base of concerned citizens. It has a broad base of skills that those citizens have. And I'm telling you now, I will not serve more than 2 3-year terms, or a total of 6, whether it's 3 2-year terms or 2 3-year terms, whatever. I think that people need to step aside and have new blood come in, and that we need to be civil and collegial and open with each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. James Reiner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Top 3 issues for me, again, it seems pretty common. Town infrastructure, mainly bridge issues, water precinct, and roads. I haven't heard a clear, definitive plan from current boards in recent years as to how they're going to fully address this issue. Funding from the state for bridge repair and replacement is backlogged several years, so it's an avenue we can't immediately depend on. I feel that in the near future, we're probably going to have to absorb the water precinct. I understand it was on the warrant last year, and those issues could be quite costly for the town. We need to be fiscally responsible, plan for the future, make sure that we have money set aside for these large expenditures that could cost several $1 million. The tax impact, it's one of the reasons why I moved to town. I love our tax. I don't love any taxes, but I love the low tax rate that we have in Wakefield. I have a concern with this year, if everything passes in March or 2 weeks, that we could all potentially see an increase in your taxes, mainly from school board operating budget and warrant articles. I feel that the school board and the Board of Selectmen should be able to work together, put together reasonable budgets for the taxpayers. I understand that they're 2 independent governing bodies, but there's nothing to say that they can't have roundtable discussions about their individual proposed budgets and special warrant articles, so that we're not having such a large impact on any one year on the taxpayers. A lack of transparency with current operations in town. I feel there are too many non-public issues with no follow-up or explanation after the fact. I understand that certain information is not privy to the public, personnel issues, but if we're having so many personnel issues at every other week on a selectmen's meeting, I saw sometimes upwards of 14 non-public issues, that we have larger issues to address. The public should be allowed to address their concerns and opinions at any Board of Selectmen meeting in a controlled and professional manner. The mentality of this is the way we've always have done it, I feel is archaic and does nothing but suppress the voice of the people, the ones that they represent and were voted you in.
Thank you. I can tell you guys timed these things at home. You're right on time.
Right here.
Mr. Michael Watkins, please.
Hi, we can all sit up here and talk about roads and taxes and the reasons for maintaining our lakes. I think one of our biggest problems currently is within the selectmen's and the town's administration and such. So I'd start with trust. And that's one of the reasons I'm running. I don't have a hidden agenda to run for selectman. I'm not looking for an immediate change or to add more selectmen or to change any one department. I will make my decisions based on facts, laws, and input from townspeople and my own research into the issues that are presented to the board. The next issue I have is communication. As a selectman, I would help bring open communication to the town office, not only with the members working there, but with the people of our town. I spent the last couple of years actually attending the selectmen's meetings to stay informed on the issues they have had to address, and I feel we can do a better at communicating those issues and how they're addressing them, keeping the people and the employees of the town informed of how and why those decisions were made. And the other issue for me would be teamwork. We need to work on teamwork within the town, within the inner workings of the town government, town employees, and with our town. Our town needs to rise to the point of working together and working with and for the people of Wakefield. I believe, given the proper tools, influence, and direction, we can accomplish this task. Again, I do feel that low taxes, which we've maintained for years, and the priority of the lakes and roads are great issues. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Before I read the question one more time and we go to our final position for selectmen, I would like to remind you on your questionnaire, this would be the last chance you have. These last three candidates will be the last time you have to pass that in. So if you do want to fill that out, you can go ahead and do that. Reading the question one more time. Candidates, what do you consider to be the top three most important issues facing Wakefield, and how would you approach each one? We're going to start off with Mr. Charlie Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I guess my first thing would be atmosphere. To give all townspeople a chance to voice their questions and concerns without having to go on to defense because it's not what the in-house wants to hear. I want the town hall to be a pleasant experience for people to walk into. My next thing is rules and regulations. As I have always felt, we are completely overregulated. We're losing property rights. That's all of you. You're getting so you can't do anything. And you need to stand up to speak for that because it's yours. I will try hard to set forth good policy for everybody. I always have and I always will. Projects, we're all on that board. Projects that need to be done, not just infrastructure, but projects. For example, I will use bridges as my example. This can be done for far less than everybody anticipated. Than people think. We have to eliminate a wide range of overpaid people that are involved in it. We have to do things on our own. We can't just rely on people or the state to give you money every time you turn around. Who says they even got any? They don't, but they're giving it away. I'm not sure where they get it. And of course, I never want to cut corners. I'm a project manager. I can do things and show people how to do things to get things done. I'd like to keep it local. I'm always a guy that puts the locals first. I think there's a lot of people in this town that can do everything that is needed. We never have to ask out. Keep it simple. Stop asking for the Taj Mahal. We need to do things simple. And don't overdo it. seems like every time you want to do something, it's $1 million to do something. Well, I'm telling you, it isn't $1 million. It just needs to be project managed correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lee Nichols.
Thank you.
I spent almost, well, a little over 22 years between active duty Air Force and Air National Guard. I retired in 2012. They have core values that they teach you from the minute you go into basic training. It is integrity first. Now, if you ask me, integrity is always doing the right thing, no matter who's watching or who isn't watching. Service before self. I not only learned this in the service, but I learned it from my parents. If you go by and you see a neighbor struggling with shoveling a driveway or sanding or whatever it may be, I was raised to stop and give them a hand. Excellence in all we do. That one there is self-explanatory. Anything we do, we should be trying to do it our best. It's a whole lot easier to do something right the first time than to do it wrong 5 other times. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of time. I will be on the infrastructure bandwagon as well. Bridges are one of our top priorities, I would say. We have 7 bridges. I believe 3 or 4 of those are on the state red bridge list. I just went up, somebody asked me to go take a look at it. The North Wakefield Bridge, the one we just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to reline. It looks as though just before the bridge, there's a good-sized sinkhole starting. Somebody, I would suggest, get in there and find out what's going on before you end up with a car in the bridge. But that's a prime example where we reline that bridge. Basically, we're throwing our money out if they don't get up there and save it. Maple Street Bridge and Canal Street are 2 other ones. Putting $10,000 or $20,000 a year into a bridge fund is not going to get them fixed. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Ms. Connie Twombly.
Well, pretty much everything has been discussed. I would just like to add that most of these things, bridges, the DPW, a landfill, are all things that we as selectmen have been overseeing. And decisions don't come easy when you're faced with certain things that are going wrong with what department. I mean, you have to work together as a board and decide what is right to do and what isn't. One selectman can't make that choice by themselves. We have tried very hard to work with the state on the bridges. They've told us to do things one way and come to find out, well, now we're on an extended list. We filled out all the forms we needed to fill out, but they apparently gave more money to bridges than they had or had allocated for that particular time. So we're way down quite a ways. And as far as the water department, I'm trying to touch on everything that was said here. As far as the water department's concerned, we were in a very bad shape, and we were thinking that the town might have to take it over. I was not for that, but luckily, 3 people stepped up as commissioners, a new treasurer or a new clerk, and they have done a remarkable job with the water department, and they're headed in the right direction. They're working with the state, and they're making sure that everything is lined up the way it should be lined up. So I'd like to say that they've done a great job for us. We did not have to take it over, and I don't think we will be taking it over for maybe 5 years or so. But another problem, okay, I'll finish. That's the end. Thank you.
I'm scared of you. Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for selectmen. A little round of applause, some support. Two very quick things before we collect. The Lions are going to be collecting here in a second, but now would be a great time to keep the applause going. I'd like to thank Gabe, his mom Donna, and Nico. If you're around, they're doing the cable today for 1301 and Facebook. They're doing a great job. They help us at deliberative session and in all of these meetings. The other thing is the evaluation form. If you could really fill that out before the event is over. I know that the Lions, the Gaffney Library, they put a lot of time in this, a lot of meetings, a lot of labor behind it. I think they do a fantastic job, so they really do look at these. So if you could fill those out, that would be fantastic. We're now going to take a quick break. We're going to ask the candidates to stay where they are. They can get up and stretch if they'd like. But right now, the Lions will go around and collect the last of the topic sheets. The Gaffney Library will retire just for a moment, collect those sheets. And they've asked me to have you stay in your seats, but I don't think I can control that. I think they're going to be able to. If you guys just wander closely by, you can get some refreshments, and we'll call you back in. Can everyone hear me? Not yet. Louder, louder. Test, 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 test. There it is. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for your patience. A few things have been brought up to me. I did some housekeeping things. First, we're going to start out with. It was brought to my attention, a lot of people don't know that I call it the PEG channel, maybe it's not called that anymore, but it's community TV. It's channel 1301. I was actually watching it last night, so you all do have that. We're also streaming live on Facebook. It was also brought to my attention, somebody had asked about the warrant articles that you see on the sample ballots here, and I do recommend that you print these off. You can get these on the website, Wakefield website, Town Hall. You can print them off and study these, but they're written by attorneys. No offense, Mr. Denley, but they are kind of confusing. So what I recommend, this is brought to me by my town clerk, you can get to the community TV channel website through the Wakefield website, and if you'd like, you follow that through, and when you get to the community TV website, you can find a button to click on deliberative session. And during the deliberative session, it was an all-Saturday event, and we go through all the town warrant articles as well as the school. So if you have questions on that. Another thing to do at the end of this event, you can meet and greet the candidates. A lot of the people up here on the stage obviously know these warrant articles, or they wouldn't be running, and you can ask them some questions on that. Last thing I want to mention, to be completely fair to a certain gentleman, I announced that I was asking for some write-ins for my position of moderator, which I forgot. Mr. Tristan Plummer, who was pulled out of selectman's race, is running for the school board for the 3-year term. He's going as a write-in. So what's good for the goose sort of thing. I just wanted that to be out there. I think we're going to start. We're all set. Julie, we're all set? We have 3 questions here from the audience. 2 of them I'm sure we'll get to. The last one, it's kind of in order of importance. We're going to be a little liberal on the time frame, especially with the first one. We're getting a lot of questions about this. So, candidates, I'll read the question. If you choose to answer it, please raise your hand, and I will call on you to speak. I will do that randomly, audience, so we're not going to go down the row. I'll just kind of pick, and if everybody has their hand up, we're going to get to everybody. So we want everyone to be heard. You'll have an opportunity to answer the question in 30 seconds to do so. A reminder that you'll have a final 1.5-minute wrap-up at the close of this. So if you wanted to bring up another topic or just close it out, you'll be able to do that. Julie will give you the yellow card again for the 15-second warning, and then the red card to stop. We're going to control that pretty tightly because in order to get these in. Okay. All right. Candidates, we'll move on to the last round of questions. All right. I will ask the question, and you just raise your hand if you care to answer it. The topic is town politics, again, from the audience. How can you help change the attitude to a more positive feeling? Now, a lot of this comes from social media, from what you're seeing on social media, what's happening in meetings. So We gathered up a few of them, we combined it to this, so I'll read it again. How can you help change the attitude to a more positive feeling? Anyone? Rose?
The diversity of our town makes it interesting as... The diversity of our town makes it interesting as well as the history, but we need to address all interest in the town and not just the special interest. I believe the best way to do this is with a 5-person select board, and I support the warrant to have this place, hopefully within the next couple of years. This would allow for, 1, transparency with the people about the town government, will give diversity to the different interests in town, and not allow for special interests to gain extra power in the town office, and give a more equal view on how the town should be run. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Ruth.
I think there's a couple of different answers. There's probably a lot of different answers. One is inclusiveness. And by that I mean, how about we go on a walkabout? How about we occasionally have our town selectmen's meetings down in Union, either at the Resource Center or at the Hotchkiss Commons? How about we go out to East Wakefield? Maybe people would come out more and be more in a mood to participate if they felt we were paying attention to them. Always get back to someone who asks a question in the public session. Always get back to them in the next public session if you don't know the answer.
Thank you. Once again, how can you help change the attitude to a more positive feeling? Yes, go ahead.
Again, we need to keep the people involved. We should encourage everybody in the town to participate at some level. People in elected positions should put their personal agendas aside and work for the people. We all have our own wants and needs, and if I was 1 against 5,000, I think I'd change my vote to the 5,000 to represent the people that put me in the position. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Denley.
I think being positive yourself and the way that you deal with people, and always be willing to listen to what everyone has to say, not just a few people.
Thank you, sir. Lee, did you have your hand up too?
Yeah, Charlie had his up first.
Okay, Charlie's first. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I think it's time to give back the town to the people. I don't think I don't necessarily think that the people have any say as much as we all keep saying that they do. I'd like to see a lot more participation, but I do believe that this town needs to allow people to come in and express without being on defense. And maybe start with administration. Maybe administration needs to administrate and not manage. I believe there's a lot more involvement on trying to give back positive feelings, and that's something I can do, and I have done by making these boards a little more fun, a little more entertaining for people to come in and speak their piece.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Lee, go ahead.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Edwards. We work for you if we're elected and we're on the board. We answer to you. So if it has to do with the public, as in our residents, you come in here, you ought to leave out of this town hall with a smile every time. You're our customers. As far as office to office, department to department, good discipline or bad discipline, you may have to do some discipline to get people to grow up and act like adults and treat people with respect. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I think the main thing is positive attitude. Staying positive will help bring positive change, and we won't see as much negativity. Not having a personal agenda and listening to the folks in the town, and in doing that, basing your decision-making on facts, not just my personal opinion, and be clear how you make those decisions. Because I feel if people feel they're listened to and have input, they'll be more positive, and just get out and listen to the people of the town. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, I think every candidate up here is on this ballot because of some reason for this particular topic. I think the key is, though, is communication and your approachability. I mean, we're not always going to agree on things, and there's some things that we're not always going to present to you that you're going to like. There's some things we can do, and there's some things we can't do. It's how people can approach you and how you deliver it back to them is what's important. They need to know that you're listening to them and that you actually care about what they're talking about.
Thank you. Okay, Connie, I see your hand up down there. Go ahead.
I agree with Lee. Respect is the key word. Everybody has their job to do. And if everybody would tend to their job and not be bothered what somebody else is doing, as long as everybody's doing their own job, and respect the fact that these people have these jobs, is the main thing.
Thank you. Okay, I'll move on to the next question. If it's all right with the candidates. We're going to reset. Okay, stand by. I'm going to go ahead and read the question. The topic is taxes increased last year on lakefront, specifically to the lakefront, but I'll open it to the candidates for taxes in general if they care to, but I'll read the question verbatim. Were the tax increases raised last year on waterfront property the wave of the future, ? We already pay 72% of the revenue collected. So the person's basically asking, the increases on the waterfronts, is that going to be a continuous thing? Anyone like to field that? Charlie, saw your hand up first.
Well, I don't feel there's really a huge ordeal with taxes in this town. I know that taxes went up this year, but in the last 10 years, we've had ups, downs, and we have no control over most of the tax rate in the town. When you're talking about these lake houses are selling for upteen amounts of money that are crazy money. And then the state comes in and then assesses your values. Every house that gets sold, it ups the cost, it ups your value of your home, which dictates to the amount of tax that the town puts out for you. But it's all governed by the state. We don't really have yes, we control our spending. Our spending has been level funded for quite some time. So I don't think.
You're going to make me do it, aren't you? You're going to make me do it. You're going to make me gavel you, aren't you? You're going to. It had to happen.
I get rambling. What am I supposed to do?
Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, as you all know, the lakefronts are a good portion of our taxes, and I do feel for the residents, but it is what it is. Currently, the business I'm in, I kind of know what's going on. The sales market analysis is what we have to do. Property values have gone up. The prices of houses have gone up. Unfortunately, to the lakefront owners, the prices of the houses are dictated by what people are buying them for. We went from $70 per square foot to $110 per square foot, but we do have to maintain a COD of disbursement, which the state has us allows us to come in we have to be at 95%. Currently, we're at 89. Cindy told me yesterday that we'd be at 100% this year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Once again, it's where the taxes increased last year on waterfront property, the wave of the future, ? We already pay 72% of the taxes collected. I saw Lee first. Go ahead, Lee.
I know everybody likes low taxes. I own 3 pieces of property down in Union that are all side by side. I pay the taxes as well as you guys. I'm a straight shooter. Every year the cost of pavement goes up. Every year the cost of trucks go up. The previous boards have kept it at a low increased rate, but I mean I could sit here and tell you nothing's ever going to go up, but we all know that's not the case.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Paul, did you have your hand up?
Quickly Googling tax rates and looking at the
You're
span
Googling.
on that.
Stand by for the Google.
Technically, the tax rate did not go up. What we had on the warrant article last year was a statistical analyzation update. And that, everybody voted, passed that warrant article, so it was kind of self-inflicted. That allowed the assessing firm to take a look at the properties and bring them up to fair market values. The assessment for the whole town itself went up around 100 million, I think 10 million just in commercial alone, or utilities, public utilities alone on that. So that was a bigger resource for the property, and actually the tax rate went down. I know my taxes went up dramatically, but yet the tax rate went down.
Thank you. Anyone else like that one? Okay, Ruth.
How many of you out there are actually people who pay waterfront taxes? Wow, okay. That's what happens when you have 7 lakes, right? I don't know enough about this topic then to answer. Not because you raised your hands, but some of you could grab me afterwards and educate me, perhaps, about why you think there's such a discrepancy. And I also agree with what's been said up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I was just handed another one. I've got 2 left that we actually can probably kind of plow right through. They're all kind of softballs, so we're gonna end on a friendly note here. If you were to have a campaign slogan, what would it be?
Oh.
Mr. Nichols.
I've already got mine on my sign. It's of the people, for the people, by the people. I'm here for them.
Okay. I guess the question would be, what would it be and why? So yours is pretty self-evident. Anyone else? Wow, I'm giving it to you. Ruth, go ahead.
Think, 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 then listen and think again.
All right. Yes, Mr. Denley.
Mine would be had enough. And,
Do you want to expand on that? Go ahead.
Well, I think everyone in the room obviously has had enough of something. That's why you're here. And, you know, everyone's got valid points and everyone's got valid concerns. And I think that's why you're here, and that's why mine would be had enough.
Okay, thank you. Did I see one more hand? Yes, sir, Mr. Reinhardt.
I know I addressed it in the top 3 issues. Would it be just transparency? I'll be able to, if elected, make sure that the governing bodies are transparent with the taxpayers.
Yeah. Thank you. Ruth, go ahead.
Rose.
Rose. I keep doing that to you. I'm so sorry. Rose.
Common sense and compassion. I think our town needs a lot more compassion lately. There's been a lot of fighting and bickering and disagreeing. And yes, we're all different, but in a lot of the ways we're all the same because we all love this community.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Duffy.
I'm going to be a little comical and put a little spin on it. Do your job.
Do your job. All right, I've got one left here. It's a huge softball. You're going to hit it out of the park here. Again, from the audience, I really like this one. How would you describe the town of Wakefield to somebody not from the state? It's a good one. Yes, Rose.
Well, I came here from out of state, so I guess it's beautiful and small and quaint.
True. How would you describe the town of Wakefield to someone not from the state? Mr. Nichols.
Yes, I've actually had to do that, not just the town. I've been all over the world, and most people look at me and go, is New Hampshire even part of the country? Yeah, we're just below Maine. Usually what I tell people about Wakefield is it's a beautiful, small town feel. Everybody helps everyone out. We're 45 minutes from the mountains and 45 minutes from the ocean.
Yep. Thank you. Mr. Edwards.
I would say that we're not like anybody else. And I think that's what separates us, that we make our own decisions. And I like that. I think we're kind of stubborn in times, that we don't like change, and I'm okay with that. But I will tell you that I don't like comparing us with others, because we are Wakefield, and we're a We're a town with a lot of pride and a lot of success, I believe, and a lot of good people.
And a big gavel. Yes, Ruth.
I think Lee drives faster than I do. I usually say hour and an hour.
Oh, no, you can do it in 30 minutes.
But
if you
anyway,
try.
I would say that we're a small town learning to grow.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Reiner.
Tell people regularly that I don't want to live anywhere else. I'm sad that I have only been here for 10 years, that I didn't move north sooner after I graduated high school.
Great. Yes, go ahead, sir.
What I usually tell people is that I spent my entire life coming up here on vacation, and I couldn't wait to be able to move here full-time. It's kind of self-explanatory by then. By that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I like that question. It's a good way to end the audience questions. We're going to move on to the roundup. Candidates, each of you will have 90 seconds to wrap up. Again, this is closing remarks. This is what you would do as a select person, or if there's something that you didn't get to because you ran out of time, you can go back to that. Again, the 90-second roundup, when the yellow card shows up for 15 seconds and the red will ask you to stop. We'll begin with Rose Baxter.
I'd like to end with saying that you, the voters, are the ones that make the ultimate choice on how the town is run. I would strongly recommend reviewing the deliberation meeting, this meeting, and the individual meeting TV portions that we did, and find out what we all stand for, and then choose the candidate that would best help you get to where you would be happy in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Denley.
What I'd like to say is that my experience as an attorney led me to this town, and it went from moving to the town to becoming part of the town. When I first got to Wakefield, I hadn't been in town for a week before Bill Twombly and Johnny Nason were in my driveway asking whether or not I would consider to be the town attorney. And I said, well, it's not an area of expertise of mine, although my firm does represent a couple of towns down in the southwestern part of the state. And he said, that's good enough. He said, we want somebody from town that cares about the town and knows the town. And so for the next 5 years, I represented the town. I was the Rick Sager for those first 5 years. And then I continued to be representing the town in a variety of ways. I represented the water district for many, many, many years. Just gave that up a few years ago. So you develop a love of the town when you go through a period like that, like I have. And I moved on into other areas and had a much, much bigger practice. I've had lots and lots of employees. But my roots are in Wakefield, and that's where I want to stay.
Thank you, Mr. Denley. Mr. Paul.
I'd like the opportunity to pick up where I left off in 2016 when I left the board and changed for new blood to come in. Some of the areas I'd like to focus on would be making sure the transfer station becomes self-sufficient down there, really focusing on employee retention, keeping a lot of the employees that we have out there. Focusing on the private roads. We've got a lot of private roads in town, and we tried it about 12, 13 years ago to form a private road committee and start looking at that and either have a better step to get some of these roads to be town roads and maintain them at the town level, or maybe give funding back to some of these roads. They're paying a tremendous amount of taxes, and the roads are some of the biggest water pollution areas we have, and they're what's actually polluting our lakes. I can make decisions, confidence confident, intelligent ones with good research and stick to the decisions we have versus constantly flip-flop and just really confusing a lot of people when you're one day one thing, one day the next. I think that's about all I have for time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on for wrap-up for the 2-year selectman position, Mr. Jeff Denley.
All right. In my experience, I've learned that you need to make tough choices on what you can afford now and what will have to wait until you can afford it. If you ask any successful business owner, managing employees is key. I think one important skill that I can bring to the job of selectman is the ability to get people with different backgrounds and skills to compromise and work together for the community good. I'll keep an open mind and only make decisions after I've heard all sides of an issue. I love this town and look forward to working together with everyone to make Wakefield a great place to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mark Duffy.
Yeah, I have actually been coming to this town all my life. My mother was born here. My grandfather was a local undertaker. The Peasley Funeral Home used to be called the Kennett Funeral Home. So my roots are deep here. I love this town, and I've worked for you before for 12 years. I have the demeanor for this position. I've been in management positions before. I've dealt with human relations. I can bring some of that back into here. Many of the employees that when I was on the board are still here. I'm ready to work with them again, listen to what their issues are, and resolve some of these things. You know, there's many issues that are hot to the people in the audience here. The roads are one. Mr. Paul brought this up. We have many private roads in this town. We do have an overabundance of them, and we need to kind of come up with a comprehensive plan with that, especially with the roads. In having a good inventory. I'm glad to hear that they are having a cooperative study come in to make a map of our roads, our culverts and everything. That's something I wanted when I was on the board before. I want a comprehensive plan of where these are, what our schedules are, and how we're going to maintain them. You know, the taxes, we do have one of the lowest tax rates around here. I own lakefront property. I feel your pain as far as tax rates go, but property values are up, tax rate goes down. Property values go down, tax rate goes up. Unfortunately, some of us that live on the lake, we pay a little bit more, but you know, hey, that's the price we pay to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ruth Hall.
I was flicking around the television last night, and I was lucky enough to land on C-SPAN when our 111th Justice of the Supreme Court, Sotomayor, was taking part in a town hall at some university in D.C. And that justice had the guts to speak about love and to talk about acting in love and to be loving towards her audience. Think of that, someone that elevated, able to reach out and speak in those terms. And that's what I'd like to do, is act in love towards each and every one of you. Love isn't a feeling. It's not something warm and fuzzy that's always going to be there. It's having the grace and the compassion to always have an action towards the other person that is loving. And when you do that, it won't matter whether or not the outcome is different from what you like. When you do that, you're going to have a board that is civil, a board that is competent, and a board that is caring. And I think we need those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Please remember to silence your cell phones. Mr. James Reinhardt.
Thank you. In closing, I feel that I'd be a great asset to the board and the town by utilizing my skill set and prior experience in municipal government. I currently hold an associate's degree in fire science, a bachelor's degree in public service management, and I'm soon to be finishing my master's degree in public administration. Currently, I'm the fire chief in a nearby community. I've been with that organization since 1999. During my tenure with that department, I've gained many years of experience working with various boards and committees. Within that community, I am responsible for drafting and maintaining my department's annual operating budget, developing and implementing policies and procedures. I understand that I'm not a lifelong resident of Wakefield. That does not mean I'm not invested in my community. It doesn't mean that I don't have a drive and a want to help move our town forward. I do not wish to take the small town feel out of Wakefield, but we do need to look at initiating controlled, responsible growth in order for us to stay on track and promote our town that attracts other people and businesses. this and hopefully keep our tax rate in check. I would respectfully ask for your vote, as I would love to continue serving our community and give the voice back to the people that matter, you, the taxpayers.
Thank you. Mr. Michael Watkins, please.
With me, you'll get a fresh perspective from an experienced leader with no hidden agendas. I'm a citizen of Wakefield with no personal or business ties that may influence my decision-making processes. I've spent many years working on municipal budgets, working with town officials and committees to help maintain a high level of service while always keeping taxpayers in mind. A frequent attender of the Selectmen's meetings, I've been asking questions and doing the research of the laws that govern the decision-making processes. I've met with all of our town department heads, except for the fire chief. I haven't been able to catch up with him yet, to gain their knowledge and insights on how they can better serve the needs of the citizens. I'm committed to addressing those needs as long as the goals are focused on what is best for the town and its people. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, we're going to the candidates for the 3-year selectman position. We'll start with Mr. Charlie Edwards.
All right, here we go. For the countless hours that I have put in and my accomplishments I have made in the years I have served as selectman and a citizen of this community, it demonstrates my skills to bring to this board. Common sense is the big winner for me. I'm able to make good decisions in the best interest, not for myself, but for the townspeople. I work hard to listen to all sides of each debate or issue and be mindful of all the needs of our community and residents. The opinions I have formed in votes, the opinions I have formed and the votes that I have casted are and will be based with the will of the entire community in mind. And let this be no mistake, I get stuff done. When I'm in here, I do things. I get a lot done, and I put myself out to everybody, and I just do things. So I'm asking for the support, once again, and the privilege to serve you all as your 3-year term selectman. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Mr. Lee Nichols.
I didn't bring a whole lot for notes or closing statements. I did quick little bullet points here. What I could bring to this is, like I said before, I'm a straight shooter. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you exactly what the law says or what the town can do or can't do or can afford to do. I did hear something about some private roads. That's a slippery slope to go down. State law tells you can work on state or private roads if you designate an emergency lane. Now, right now, our highway guys, it takes them 3.5 hours to go plow their routes. Now, you want to add more mileage onto that? If you're going to do that, you're probably going to need more trucks and more people, which, there goes your tax rates again. I believe right now our government is starting to get into a little overreach, in my opinion. The big issue that I've touched on Facebook a couple times was there are quite a few people in this town, this is a vacation town, and they're getting hit with huge fines just for having a camper on their property because they didn't close it up and make it road ready. Some of these campers cost as much as houses. If you go out and spend that kind of money, you should be able to keep it on your property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Finally, we have Connie Twombly.
I would like to thank everyone who put their name in when we needed 2 selectmen. We had quite a bit of response, and it was very good. It just showed how many people care about the town. After much thought, Vin and I chose Denny Miller because of his expertise on the Budget Committee. Then, when we needed to make another choice, Denny and I chose Ken Paul because of his expertise on landfill, WPW, and sewer. These decisions are not made lightly, and certainly other people may have chosen someone else because they were all good choices. They were definitely anxious to serve the town. Our budget this year was very frugal, and the Budget Committee approved all of our warrant articles on the operating budget. There were some changes, but mostly very supportive. I have been involved in every aspect of the workings of the town and very honored that the townspeople have had confidence in me to make the right decisions. Some decisions are just common sense, but others are very hard. I have tried to give every decision my honest opinion and have worked with the board on the final outcome, even though I might have been outvoted. Each selectman has no power on their own. It is the whole board that makes decisions. We might not always agree, but we agree to disagree and respect each other's feelings on every issue.
Thank you very much. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the candidates for Selectmen 2019. Thank you very much. Thanks again, everyone. Just a couple real quick things. Remember to vote Tuesday, March 12th. We are here from 8 to 7 right here at the Opera House. You can register to vote the same day. And as you leave, if you pick up one of these, this is what you would need to do to register to vote. Ann, you're going to take the candidates down?
Hey, Nino?
Yes.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming, otherwise we'd be talking to ourselves.
Okay, thank you, everyone, for coming.